you've been educating people on AI and emerging technologies for a few years now. Why? Why do people need to be up to date on AI?
I think for me, it started in college. So I studied AI engineering and graduated in 2020. So that was during COVID, and I was looking for a new hobby. And I figured, what's an interesting thing that I like doing, and what do I feel like is missing from the world? And I felt like maybe approachable emerging tech education was lacking. There was definitely a few channels out there, but I still wanted to do it my own way,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to have fun with it. I think reflecting on my own experience when I learned about AI in college, I kind of went from being very scared and anxious about it to being like, okay, this is like not so scary after all. And I always remember this Marie Curie quote that says, "Nothing is to be feared; that is only to be understood." And that's kind of something I believe in. I think you should always kind of seek learning and try to absorb as much as you can about a topic. And the more you know, the less is unknown, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to kind of recreate that same feeling for other people who would need it.
I mean, you do really great hand-drawn illustrations that help people understand complicated topics. You picked that up during your stint where we were all indoors during the pandemic. What what are these most complicated? What do you find people need the most help trying to understand about AI?
I think it all starts with the icon for AI. So any AI feature on any website always has a magic wand next to it. If you notice, like the magic sparkles.
Yes.
And for me, it's kind of like I try to explain what's behind the magic wand. Because if you explain something as magic, it's unexplainable, right? It's like, okay, we
Mm-hmm.
don't know how this works.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we do know how it works. And we also know why it behaves certain ways, or like why it doesn't work in other ways. And I think once you start to break down those topics in an easy to understand way, again, it goes back to the initial point of how do you make people less scared and anxious? You kind of explain and give them a story that they can remember when they're dealing with these technologies, especially with AI, because there's a tendency to make it like too human sometimes, or even superhuman, or like super alien species. And I think once you kind of break it down, it just becomes easier to understand, and you feel like, okay, this is not a magic wand. Like it's very impressive that people have built this technology to do these things, but at the same time, there's a very known process behind everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is the? I guess people fear what they don't understand. What are they fearing? Like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Every data centers are taking all the water. What are people fearing the most?
I think you touched on the two biggest ones.
Yeah.
I would say there's three main ones from what I'm seeing. First is the obviously environmental impact.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, more data centers are being built and they're draining resources. The other one is fear of job loss,
Mm-hmm.
which, these two alone create an interesting kind of like push and pull, because people are being like pushed to learn how to use this, but at the same time, they're worried about the impact. And they're like, okay, do I prioritize the planet or my job? I think that's like probably the question on most people's minds now. But I think the third uh, thing I would add is the cognitive impact of using AI too much, which I've touched
Mm-hmm.
on in some of my latest videos. When you kind of lean in too hard into it and you abandon all types of friction, and friction is, lots of experiments prove that it's good for you. Cognitive friction creates better quality results, even if it slows you down a bit. And the thing I like to say all the time is even race cars have brakes. You're not supposed to be going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Um, there's still reason to slow down. Like even if someone's advertising and you can do something in 2 minutes instead of 5 hours, maybe don't be like too greedy with your time. Maybe do it in like an hour. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
still save time without being too quick.
Do you think? I mean, because a lot of this fear comes from lack of understanding, but once we do understand it, do you think there is still basis to have fear and job loss and the environmental concerns? Like, do you feel like there will be significant job loss?
I don't think there will be significant job loss. Um, I think from like what I've seen AI do so far, and like what it can do so far. Maybe I'll start with what it can do. I think a lot of the solutions to like hallucinations and maybe like also using it too much, like wasting too many tokens, the cognitive impacts. I think those can be solved by just like someone being an expert at what they do. Um, so I think kind of like the solution to making AI work is having an expert like always involved. And I think it's very easy to pretend how to code, to pretend how to design, because AI kind of speeds up like the visible parts of work, like the outputs, but it
Mhm.
doesn't really it doesn't really speed up the messy parts between tasks. So that's why like when I see a lot of claims about massive job loss, I tend to think it's more about cost cutting measures, less about a company kind of cracked the code and made everyone like 10 times more productive.
Mhm.
And even if they crack the code, and assuming you're in like a capitalist economy, if you're more productive, like, and your output is higher, technically you should be kind of crushing your competition instead of reducing your headcount to maintain the same output. So it doesn't, logically doesn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
But obviously we've seen job loss so far. But again, I don't believe that it's associated with people being replaced. And maybe there's one example that people quote a lot, which is Klarna. Klarna
Mhm.
like famously laid off a lot of people last year, or the year before, and then they rehired a bunch of people back because they saw the quality of work getting worse. So the vision of future that I subscribe to is give everyone an assistant that helps them at their job, without replacing them, and you will see like higher quality. Hopefully, they're less burnt out if they're kind of automating the work that they don't enjoy doing and focusing on like the important parts of work.
Mm. So you're saying in a capitalist society, it wouldn't make sense for a company to have these AI come assist their employees and 10x their employee and then hire 9 out of those 10 employees so they go back to that base level. They would just keep all
Exactly.
10 and produce,
Exactly.
1,000% more.
Exactly. Exactly. And even if you think about it at the human level of it,
Mm.
one person doing like two or three people's jobs, there's definitely diminishing returns, of like the switching costs of doing different tasks or different projects. Like those are
Mhm.
real constraints.
Mhm.
So I think it always makes sense to kind of go at it slowly and give everyone the tools they need to uh, you know kind of slowly. How do you? I'm trying to think of like the best way to phrase it. Kind of like the WD-40 of like the small tasks that hold them up, but they're still kind of in control of their job and like the entire system.
Mhm. What about in a I mean, that's now, but let's project out maybe a couple years with the potential inception of AGI, like artificial general intelligence, better than humans in all aspects. Then presumably you wouldn't need the human to do the 10x. You could just have the AI that can
Mm,
10x itself by default.
yeah, yeah, good question. I mean, I'm one of the people that don't believe in AGI.
Mm.
I think mostly because no one agrees on a definition of it.
Mhm.
Um, like, sure, there's people create these benchmarks and they measure their models against them. But
Mhm.
I think the benchmark is kind of like an SAT score. If we're trying to like keep comparing AI to humans, if someone does well on the SAT, it doesn't really predict like career success or how good they are at their job. Like there's a lot of other things that the SAT isn't measuring,
Mhm.
or any other test. Not not bashing the SAT. And I think the same applies to work. Like work is very messy, and like I've worked in the corporate environments for so long. It's AI thrives in like very simple and like contained in environments where like very specific and defined tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Even like if you're at the same job, like every project has had such a different trajectory and kind of like sequence of events and like different coordination across different people. I find it very hard to believe AI being able to do that. I
Mm.
can see it maybe obviously automating a task in like a spreadsheet maybe, but that's not an entire job. I think that's a task, and a job is a collection of tasks with messy connections in between them. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
messy connections is what kind of holds me back on, and there's an AGI that will be able to do every job for free, or like not for free, but obviously like the cost of energy, but you
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't require any humans. I find it hard to believe.
Real quick, I just wanted to interrupt this conversation and say it is not lost on me how lucky I am each and every day to get to have these conversations. And I hope you guys, as the listeners, know how much I appreciate the time that you take out of your day to listen to these conversations. And I hope you get as much value out of listening to them as I did creating them. If I could just ask one quick favor, it helps so much for shows like mine if you like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. That helps the algorithm know and realize that there's value here and pushes it to more listeners. And by doing that, that allows me to get even bigger guests, more well-known guests, and have more conversations for you guys. I appreciate what you do so much. I appreciate the time that you take to listen to these conversations so much. I couldn't be here without you guys. Thank you. Now let's get back to the conversation. So where do you think it's going to go then? Like if we project out 5-10 years, what do you think that looks like with the inception of AI?
Great question. I think in the short term, we're obviously going to see more like hype and very high expectations. And obviously because there's this big funding rush, like everyone wants to raise money, everyone wants to build a startup around some sort of AI application. And I think only the useful things will survive. So I think there's obviously a lot of noise at the moment. There's like tools coming out every day, updates coming out every day. It's too much for the average person to keep up with. But I think kind of like natural selection, only the things that people see value in and see a return on, that's the things that will survive. And I think those will be, in my opinion, like the most maybe boring tasks of work. Like for example, there's a big rejection of generative AI in images and videos. Like for example, using that in Hollywood or in movies, like people reject that very, very much. But I think if you show applications for kind of like the tasks that take a lot of time. For example, if you're at a doctor's appointment and there's something that transcribes and summarizes the appointment, or helps a nurse kind of capture information instead of working 7 extra hours per day, just like redocumenting stuff. I think those applications, the unsexy, boring stuff, will survive. And I think the grandiose ambitions, I don't think they'll come true. I think AI will be very normalized, I would say, in like 5 to 10 years. People kind of compare. I've heard this metaphor being used by so many like companies and execs. Like AI is the new electricity. I think it will be kind of how we treated that. Like we'll treat it the same way, where it's kind of present everywhere, but like you don't really notice it as much. Like it's present where you need it, but it's not really like putting you out of a job, or like I don't see a company run by AI agents. I think that's a very ambitious idea. I mean, I'd love to see it happen if like someone can prove it and they can prove it works, maybe. But
so what is your opinion on like these open AI or these AI CEOs like Sam Altman or Elon, or I was just listening to Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, the podcast that just came out with Mo. All of them are pretty on the opposite side of like, obviously they have incentive other than Mo to build and create this hype to value their company, but all of them are talking about this. Like Elon's very early on the AGI kind of deal. What are your takes on why they would be so skewed the other way?
I did notice they were skewed the other way. I think I've been noticing they've been toning it down a bit more recently. But I would say like if you kind of look at any company's incentive, especially if you're a new company and there's like a boom of some kind and like a specific technology, you want to capture as much like market share as possible. And if someone pitched what I was pitching, like, oh, like the boring stuff will survive, like
Mm-hmm.
I can't raise money in Silicon Valley with this attitude. um, so I think you obviously have to make it sound interesting and revolutionary to investors and like public markets. Obviously, when you IPO,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to. I mean, naturally, you want to back like the most ambitious person with the crazy idea sometimes, um, but doesn't mean that it will come true the way they see it.
Yeah.
um, or at least I don't see that sort of vision in like the next couple of decades, at least.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
and it's really interesting. AI, like when we talk about it, most people assume they jump straight to like these LLMs, like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, but AI is in a lot more things. Like I have a newer Tesla with a full self-driving feature,
Mm,
and I like don't touch the wheel ever. Like it's very, very good, and it takes me from point A to point B. And like
mm,
here in the States, like I driving is the biggest employer in the country, like
mm,
from Uber to semi drivers. And so, I mean, I was listening to Uber's CEO talk about like they're working on full self driving models. And when asked, like, hey, what about your employees? He's just like, I don't know. Because, and
mm.
so, like, with the self driving part of AI, just to take that into application, I mean, it's pretty evident like that's going to be coming relatively soon. And there's going to be a significant job loss, at least just in that field.
Yeah, my cousin has a Tesla, and he was talking to me about the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point you bring up. It's like I don't know enough like people who do driving for a living to kind of like ask about it. I will say I did try taking a Waymo
Mm.
in San Francisco last month.
Uh-huh.
It was a cool experience. Like I was a bit on edge, maybe because it was my first time.
Yeah.
Just like seeing the steering wheel just like
Yeah.
turning on its own, and you're in the back seat. You're like, okay, well, what's if something goes wrong, what do I do? I would still. I think in any job, there's still like some critical like human interaction required. Like even
Uh-huh.
if you're a truck driver. Um, Again, I don't know the job well enough to kind of describe what parts can be automated. And but what you mentioned kind of like remind me of a kind of like this pattern I noticed. With like some people I was talking to a few weeks ago. I think it's very easy to maybe see someone else's job going away because we don't know enough about it. For example, like software engineers, everyone's like, "Oh, uh, AI models can write very good code," and usually people saying that is like are non-coders because they built something and it works, but they just don't know how it fails or like what they're missing. Like you don't know what you don't know. And but when you ask them about their own job, everyone's like, "No, I don't think AI can replace me because there's like this part and this part and this part that maybe I tried using it for, but it did terribly at." So I think in any job you can kind of find those areas where someone can be fully automated out of a job,
Mhm.
and and if they do it, I think it's going to take a long time for the technology to be good enough and reliable enough.
Mm. So you're of the opinion that, hey, maybe people won't lose their jobs directly to AI, but they might lose them to somebody who's aided in AI and able to output significantly more than them because they know the systems, they know how to utilize it a little bit better than somebody who's not as educated on the current models of AI.
I would say yes and no. I think yes because it's always good to learn the new tools and
Mm-hmm.
figure out how they can work better for you. But I think maybe kind of going back to like one of our earlier points about people who lean in too hard into AI and
Mm.
like just stop thinking entirely. For example, like the soft skills of work of like communication and strategy, decision making, all these like intangible skills that are gained through like experience and kind of like the friction, the moments of
Mm-hmm.
friction that we talk about. I think those make the really good employees.
Mm.
Um, and I think if you just have someone whose only skill is like typing prompts into an AI assistant,
Mm-hmm.
by definition, they're very easily replaceable because anyone can type English into a
Mm-hmm.
box and do stuff. But I think it's much harder to. It'll be much harder to kind of hold back and train yourself to still learn the other skills.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Again, communication, decision making, strategy, even like creative thinking. Those things are a lot messier where there's no clear way to do it,
Yeah.
but they're still like so important to a job, as opposed to kind of the very functional tasks of let me make a spreadsheet or make a
Mm-hmm.
document or make a slide. You
Yeah.
know, you can make a beautiful slide, but you need to be able to tell a good story,
Yeah.
right?
So how do you strike the balance then of knowing when to use AI and then when to apply this friction?
Man, that's a question I like keep asking myself all the time. Like I'll tell you in my own work, for example, um, when I make videos, I when I'm drawing, I use no AI because I need it to be slow. Because I think I've noticed, and it took a lot of self reflection, maybe that when I slow down during my drawing, I it gives me more time to think about like the end to end story. Because I like to have like these open loops of okay, like you kind of show something here, but then you kind of reclose it at the end, and thinking about like the right metaphors and analogies that would resonate with people when I'm explaining something super technical. And even when I'm writing, like I still write all my scripts. But for example, like maybe there's like a sentence where I'm like, this sounds weird. Maybe I'll like rewrite it then with like some AI tool. Um, so it's kind of like uh, it's not AI first.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like it's uh like me first, and then I'll use AI when I feel like I'm stuck. And I think the other part of it is I try to like in my head, I try to define which tasks I enjoy doing versus I don't enjoy doing. For example, I love to draw. I love to write. I really enjoy these things. I love to read. So even though I'm researching, like I'll kind of go deep into like an article or paper, or like sometimes I'll read a book just to make a small reference to it in a video.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't enjoy going through my emails. I hate going through my emails. So I like to use the AI features in my email, for example, to like summarize things or remind myself or like find very old emails
Mm-hmm.
that I forgot where I responded about something. Again, the unsexy, boring tasks. That's
Yeah.
what I always do first, maybe with AI, because I feel like there's no cognitive impact on it. Like me searching through my email shouldn't be a chore. It should be very easy to find something I spoke about. But I want to focus on kind of building my like storytelling skills, my drawing skills, my even my own understanding of the AI industry. Like I have to read and like do the hard work there. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like my current perspective, or like how I'm treating it at least.
I mean, I use Claude. I use Claude a lot. Like Claude is awesome with their integrations and their co-working feature.
Hmm.
I have really set up some pretty substantial systems that I could imagine like if I scaled out this podcast to, the size of Diary of a CEO or Modern Wisdom or Joe Rogan or whatever it is, like I could really see how the AI feature could replace a lot of jobs, like not
Hmm.
all of them, but like being guided by one person, like sending out agents to help build briefs or
Hmm.
reading the past, conversations that I've had, the transcripts, and like
Hmm.
helping pick out like good questions or good points for clips or, building chapters for YouTube and all these things. Like there's a lot of features that I could use AI as a larger podcast to take jobs, but I do now to help as the one man show that I have here
Hmm.
besides my editors. Like AI is very invaluable. It speeds up my systems and my processes and allows me to, because I have a little group of friends that I chat with, twice a month on podcast. They all have podcasts and we
Hmm.
all talk about stuff like that. And we talked about whether or not you use podcast or AI in like helping build like research briefs and prepping for the podcast. And one of them was like, said, no, I don't do that. I want it to feel like it's genuine to me. And then somebody else said, no, I do that. And I'm kind of in the middle, because the way I think about my podcast is I think like listeners first. Like I want them to be able to get value from this. And if using AI allowed me to get more information and ask better questions, then by not using AI, I'm doing a disservice to the listener of whom I'm trying to make this podcast for. And so for me, I'm trying to like strike that balance of like, I don't want it to be all AI because I don't let it generate questions or do any of that. It's all me, but also it allows me to ask better questions. So trying to strike that balance.
No, I think you the way you framed it is perfect. I totally agree with you, because I think ultimately, I think it's less about the tools, right? It's more about the outcome. Like if the outcome is a better outcome for everyone, and like your listeners are enjoying it, like you found some like interesting pieces of information that you wouldn't have found otherwise, it makes total sense. I think it's because even if you take the opposite way, like someone's not using AI, but they ask terrible questions. It's like no one's gonna listen to it anyway. So it's less about the tool, more about like what you're presenting and kind of like the trust you're building over the years. But let's say you're like, okay, you have these research briefs being created, and I don't know, something in there is wrong, and you ask a question about it, then it just looks bad, and like okay, then it's like then it starts to erode maybe the trust that someone has built. Even for companies, like if you have a product that starts making too many mistakes, or if you have like your customer service is fully AI, automated, then it slowly erodes the trust that people have, unless it's like working 100% of the time. So that's like kind of like, and that takes me back to our initial point of, well, how do you make sure something works 100% of the time? Well, you need someone who knows what to do. Even if like their job is less about navigating a million tabs and applications, and more about maybe focusing and reviewing a few things. So again, that's why I still believe in the value of people in these positions.
So in your ideal scenario, it's somebody who leverages AI strategically and not at the loss of these skills that you have as a human, critical thinking, strategy skills, like application skills. Like it's able to have both and not let the overusage of AI allow these other ones to atrophy and shrink.
Exactly. Like too much of something is usually not that good.
Yes.
So it's like, who has like that discipline to kind of hold them back? I think those people will thrive a lot.
So you're kind of in the boat of, I'm not buying into the hype of this utopia coming down the line, but I'm also not buying into the hype of this dystopia and coming 100%, down the line.
Yeah. That's very accurate. Yeah.
So you're right in the middle there. What are, I mean, let's take the other end of that fear though. So we talked about the job loss. Let's talk about like the environmental aspect. Like, are these data centers that are being propped up and being proposed actually consuming the water? Is that something we do need to fear about?
Actually working, one of my next videos will be about this, because I've been seeing so many conflicting information online. Like some people are saying like it's underestimated or overestimated. So I'm kind of confused. I think like most people, I did make a video about it last year when we had very small numbers, but they weren't really specific to AI. It was just data centers in general. But obviously, there's more data centers, so there's more usage of water and energy. But I think like we've heard enough stories of like local communities like struggling with maybe like higher energy prices and the resource like like the resources around them being depleted or affected. So it's definitely a problem, and I think part of kind of like underhyping AI, which is like what I try to do, is I think it's like all connected when I see it. Like people shouldn't be using AI too much and all the time. Like it's kind of like use it when it makes sense, use it less. And I think if we adopt that mindset, and I think we will. I hope that's what, at least that's the change I'm trying to create.
Yeah.
Then it won't be such a, maybe like a high usage or like high demand for data centers.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's idealistic, I know, but I
Hmm.
think that's one of the ways. It's just like the change kind of like behavior as well. But at the same time, I think there's obviously effort needed from companies to just like maybe build cleaner energy sources, and even innovate on cooling technologies
Hmm.
that don't require water. I was invited to a data center a couple months ago here in Canada. So I think one of the reasons they built it here is because of the colder climate.
Hmm.
And one of the things they mentioned, because we all asked about it, was the water. And they said like that data center used open air cooling, I think up until 29 degrees Celsius. I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit. Wait, let me.
I don't know the
29
conversion either. I can do kilos, but not degrees.
in Fahrenheit. I'm gonna look it up so people know and don't pause their phone to Google. Okay, it's 84 Fahrenheit,
Okay.
84.2. So anything under that temperature, like they were using open air cooling, and anything above, I think, would use water. And they said like it would be like a swimming pool for the year. Like that's how they've quantified it. So I hope more data centers, at least the new ones that are being brought up, are kind of following similar like infrastructure. You
Hmm.
know, like like use open air cooling as much as you want, build it in colder climates, and even energy. You know, make sure it's powered by clean energy. Like, you know, I see probably a high demand of like nuclear, solar
Hmm.
energy coming up. I think maybe this is the push that everyone needed to like invest in those and like make those more prevalent. So I hope that's an area of innovation that will grow, and I hope to actually cover it on my channels as well. Um, that's why I call my channel Future with Fawzi. Not It's not AI with Fawzi or tech with Fawzi. I just like I like to take a broader view of things, and energy and climate. I think top of mind for everyone. Uh,
Hmm.
Especially like, you know, we're both young. A lot of people are young, or like even people who have kids, like they worry about it because they don't want the world to be worse um, for their
Yeah.
kids. So
It's interesting. There was this new did you see the new AI documentary that came out? I think it's on HBO or something.
not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called like how I became an I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce that word.
I know what you
Something apocalypse.
yes, yeah. Yeah. So I watched that
Okay.
and it gave me nothing. It gave me
Oh,
literally
really?
like
Okay.
yeah, he was like confused about AI. And so he talked to a bunch of experts in AI, and
Mm,
there was like no people in the middle. It was all like, hey, it's going to be great. Everything's going to be amazing. And then on the other end, it's like, this is awful. We need to change this. Like, the world's going to be on fire. And all I did was then just like, it's okay. It's like, what side do I then want to join on? Like, I got no new information. Like,
yeah.
I can't, no side refuted the other with like verifiable evidence. So it's just like,
Exa-
okay, what team do I want to be on?
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's like what's the evidence for like making big claims? Like unless you have evidence, you can't really make a big claim. That's why
Yeah.
I'm like my position's more like I'm in the middle. Like give me the boring stuff. I think that's what people
Hmm.
care about. But I will say I would recommend one thing for you to read, or like anyone else listening. There's this post. There's like this long paper called AI as a Normal Technology. It's written by two. I think they're PhDs at Princeton. They also have a book called AI Snake Oil, and they do a really good job of. And it's like kind of like the view that I've adopted, and like they've influenced me a lot in a way with their thinking and kind of their rationale. But it talks about like how we should just like treat AI like a normal technology, not like a super intelligent alien species. And it kind of talks about like the gap between like AI in the lab, in the research lab, versus AI in the real corporate world. And obviously in the lab you're testing it on benchmarks which are very defined problems with obvious answers.
Hmm.
Corporate world, you know, your normal job, there is no equivalent for that. Like, how do you make a benchmark of like something unpredictable and like very messy? And even like the cost of error in the lab is zero because you're testing it in a simulated environment. If there's a mistake, it's fine. You kind of like brush it off. Maybe you document it in the research paper. But if it makes a mistake in a company, that's like lots of dollars lost or lives affected somehow.
Hmm.
Especially with overly automated systems. So again, I think that paper will give a lot of people kind of like that reassurance that they're looking for,
Mm.
but also it's kind of grounded in like sound logic and rationale. So I highly recommend it. It's worth your time.
Okay, I'll see if I can find the paper and link it in the description, and then the book as well. AI Snake Oil.
Yeah, the
Uh,
paper is on Substack. It's like a public
okay,
article you can read too. So
perfect. What trying to steelman this case? What would be, in your opinion, the best claim for people to fear the worst of AI? Like, is there an argument that stands out the most to you that you're like, yeah, I guess that one makes the most sense?
I think the one that scares me, maybe it might sound very basic, but I can see the impact of it being bad in the long term is uh, like becoming more isolated.
Mm,
I think when you have a tool that's pretending to be a human, I think it's very easy to like not put the effort to build real connections with people. So, for example, like if you're asking kind of AI about like the soft skills stuff, like if you're asking about like, how what decision to make about something or um, to give you advice
mm-hmm,
to, I mean, even some people maybe use it as like a friend or like a romantic partner. I
mm-hmm,
think those, sound very maybe if someone listening to this might be like, this is not a real problem. I think it is a real problem because
mm,
you kind of build those skills by like surrounding yourself with other people, being part of a community, feeling like you belong, and feeling like you have people around you who are your friends. It sounds very
yeah,
soft and like I know rainbows and all that stuff, but I really believe that's like the most important thing. Like I've learned so much from the people around me my entire life, like my family, my friends,
mm-hmm,
people at work, strangers I've met on the street, like talking to people like you too. It's always uh, a good way to make yourself grow by just like
yeah,
exposing yourself to new people.
for sure.
And yeah,
I
sorry.
just spoke. I just spoke with James Ellis. He's a PhD and a therapist. He works with a lot of people, and he specializes in loneliness and like the loneliness
Mm,
epidemic. And he's like, and we were talking. And he's very adamantly believes that the world is more lonely than it's ever been before, and it's only getting lonelier.
mm,
And we've lost the ability to make these connections and these friendships and these things. Like the newest generation is more lonely than ever before. Most people have less, like statistically less than one person that they can count on in a time of need. And he just talks about like there's no there to take it back to friction. There's no need for friction anymore, because like I don't need to get uncomfortable and go put myself in a scenario to make friends or to put myself out there to talk to people, when I can just pull up my AI that I've programmed a personality into, and then
mm,
they'll just go back and forth and it will never be uncomfortable, and then they lose that
exactly.
skill.
Exactly. And like again, by definition, AI is also like known to agree with you a
Yes.
lot of the times, if not most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because like one of the way, again, going back to like why it does it, like one of the ways it's trained, it's called reinforcement learning with human feedback. So it's literally someone or like people at a computer saying, yeah, like this is a good response, this is a bad response. So obviously if response is more agreeable, you're gonna say it's good behavior, so keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now they're trying to solve it because I think all the companies are noticing it's a problem. But again, it goes back to that point. Like the friction is good, and I think when you kind of combine like social media at the moment with like AI, it's like one kind of like destroys your attention span, and one destroys your patience.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I think together, I think those are things I worry about, and I think everyone's trying to start an AI company. I think maybe people need to start more community IRL type companies. I think those are severely lacking in every city in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bet I would make on what's needed in the future.
Is there any I mean, you educate people about AI and emerging technologies. Is there anything new on the horizon that you're excited about that you've kind of been researching or setting up on?
Um, yes, there's one thing that's interesting me because I understood nothing about it, and like I'm still kind of like um trying to get into it. So I visited the Microsoft Quantum Lab a couple of months ago, and it's a lab with like everyone's a PhD in like in
Mm-hmm.
physics, and very impressive and accomplished people. And you're like, wow, like I like the level of detail and the work happening was so impressive. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to understand this very well, and like I want to understand what's going on. What are the potential applications? Because we always hear about quantum computing, and when I hear the word quantum, I think of Ant-Man. I'm like, I need to maybe I need to have a more sophisticated understanding. So I actually bought a textbook to read about it, like an intro to quantum
Mm-hmm.
computing or physics. I think it's computing. I'm like, it's on my shelf there. Yeah, cool. Computing. It's like for like college students. I'm like, okay, let me like treat it like this, like learning
Mm-hmm.
new thing I want to learn for fun.
Yeah, I think quantum computing got pushed aside, I think, by the hype of
Yeah.
AI, and yeah, I think that's very interesting, especially when. Do you think there's any concern or about the application of them being, applied together? Because what I was reading or hearing about, and I don't know if this is hype, but like quantum computing when applied to AI, like makes security systems, passwords, all these things
Mm,
completely redundant, and thus like money becomes redundant because you can't have like banking systems because
mm.
everybody will just it's all just out there.
Yeah, I need to. Honestly, I'll be honest. I don't know enough about it to
Mm-hmm.
like to give you like a good answer. But I am aware about like the kind of the cryptography issue of like, oh,
Yeah.
if you can like decrypt anything with a quantum computer, yeah, it's like a huge security risk. But I imagine the people who have money to build these quantum computers are also probably like the same companies that don't want the decryption to happen. So I hope
Yeah.
at least. I hope we don't have to worry
Uh,
about it
I
for a
mean,
while.
yeah, I mean, but that's the case, right? It's like kicking the can down the line. Like the thing is with technology is at its inception, it's price point is very high, and then it becomes more
Yeah,
efficient and less expensive, more accessible to the masses, and then
yeah,
everybody has quantum computing in their pocket,
true.
and nobody
Yeah,
has. So yeah,
yeah,
I think it's an issue that's definitely going to have to, if it is an issue, going to have to be resolved at some point, or else
yeah, yeah,
everybody's kind of
yeah,
in a
yeah.
bad
No,
spot.
I mean, I feel like it's maybe we've had like throughout history like a steady stream of people who've invented good solutions so far.
Yeah.
So I hope and again, like I hope we still have those people because they've maintained the cognitive friction required to
Yeah.
become smart and creative and you know focus on problems that matter.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, just we gotta make sure to stay human, because
Mhm.
like kind of the world feels like it's pushing you towards being a robot all the time,
Mhm.
and by making robots more human, it's kind of like this irony of like what we're trying to
Mhm.
become.
What is the end game? Like, what is your mission with your future with Fawzi? What are you trying to do and accomplish with that?
Great question. I think when I first started 4 years ago, I think that what I wrote to myself, like I had this like long reflection. It was
Mm.
COVID. I was bored at home like everyone else. Uh, I think my goal was always to make like maybe the most like non-technical people and people from like different ages, like whether you're a kid or um like a grandmother,
Mhm.
watching TV or like on her phone, make videos that feel fun to watch, but at the same time you're learning, you feel more uh like empowered and capable,
Mhm.
and you feel like you have the knowledge you need to make the daily decisions in your life that feel would create a better future. I think if you go on my channel, like or like on my website, like I write it every now and then. I always say like the future is by design.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't like to make predictions about the future. I think we should all define the future that we want and like work towards it instead of saying, there will be like massive job loss or massive replacement. But I think we still have to remember that if we all have the information that we need, we can all make the right decisions to avoid those outcomes and kind of steer the world in the direction that you want it to go in. So I hope I can kind of be like that bridge between maybe like the present where people are and the future they want to create for themselves and like for their kids, I hope.
What is, when you talk about AI first or human first, what does that mean?
I would define AI first as people or companies who want to use AI for the sake of using AI. Um, and as the people who focus too much on like what tools they use and less on the outcomes or the purpose of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, AI first, if we reapply it to what we were discussing about friction, like let's take the task of writing. AI first would be like, okay, I'm gonna go into some chatbot and tell it to write something for me. But like the human first approach is, no, is like you pause, you embrace the friction of what you embrace the blank page, and you ask yourself what you want to write and like how and like who wants to read it. And this is the approach I take with my videos. And I feel like ever since I've kind of doubled down on that approach,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I've seen the quality of my work go up. Because I've tried to script stuff like when AI tools first came out, I tried doing like a script. I'm like, let me try to make a full video or script without me touching anything. I'm like, okay, this is not ideal. And even like
Mm-hmm.
prompting over and over again, it just kind of like creates a messy piece of work, I think, in the end, when you don't have clear thinking to start from. So I think if you start with clear thinking, you'll get to the outcome faster with any tools that you want. So that's just one example of like AI first versus human first.
What do you say to somebody who's like, okay, let's just take drawing art up, and they're like, okay, I need, this graphic, or I want to start getting into drawing, but like, what's the point? I can just type in this prompted AI and it'll be able to put out better art than I
Yeah.
will be able to do for many, many years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you say to that?
Great question. I think my answer is because people ask me like, why do you spend hours?
Yeah.
I spend like probably 3 hours drawing for like a 2-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, why do you spend so much time? I'm like, I enjoy doing this. Like the point for me, like the point of life, if you're kind of like stepping back, is I want to do more of the things I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about the sentence like I don't want AI to write and draw for me, and so I can do the dishes and laundry. I want AI to do the dishes and laundry so I can have more time for writing and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to the boring, unsexy tasks. Like whatever you enjoy doing, just do it, and like however way it brings you joy and fulfillment. If you don't like to draw, yeah, go ahead. I mean, generate images if you want. But again, most people hate them, so there's no. I know people want to see that, but again, if you don't care that much about it, then you don't need to like dread over it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think that's a good
but yeah, that's
reframe.
yeah.
You want AI to do the dishes and laundry so you can do more of what you enjoy. And I think it's important to maybe reflect that being the best at it isn't the most important thing. So like for you, it's not, I'm better at drawing this than AI is. It's, I enjoy doing it, so I'm going to do it. And I had to think about that with the podcast as well. I mean, like there are AI podcasts. There
Mhm.
are situations where an AI could be sitting here on this microphone. Like you can train it on those things and have
Mhm.
AI ask you questions. And for me, it's like, does that matter? Like, do I enjoy the art of creating a podcast? Do I enjoy the art of a conversation and crafting good questions and trying to understand that? And would I do that even if AI can do it better than me? And the answer is yes, because I do it because I enjoy it. And so having that lens of like, yes, it may be better than you, but that's not the point. in a world where AI can do everything, if it can, then you have to do just the stuff that you like to do in spite of the fact that it won't be as good.
Exactly. And like, I think my drawing style also reflects that philosophy. Like, I draw stick figures. You've seen them probably, and it's funny because it's like the most basic form of like communication and drawing, and like this is what maybe cavemen did like way back when, and it's so imperfect, but I think that's the point, right? Like. You can make very polished work, and like you said, for a podcast, like maybe there's this AI tool that can make a fully AI generated podcast, but who's gonna listen to that? Like
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, like kind of like the robots playing soccer. Like I'm thinking about the World Cup all the time now. So like there's so many videos of like the robots playing soccer, but no one's gonna watch that or like cheer for them or support the team or pay money to go watch.
Mm.
Even if they can like kick a ball, save a ball, pass and shoot and like all those things, but there's
Mm.
still something that feels different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, you say nobody will watch it. For me, I don't know if that's true, because I
Okay.
look at it more as like let's talk about like Formula One. Not that
Yeah.
not that I'm super informed on Formula One. Obviously, we still have the drivers, but also you're rooting for like the team, like
Correct.
the design and like
Yes.
improving and the creating the Formula One. So even if we have like these robot soccer players, then but if there's like still a human behind like the team of like, okay, they're creating the best robot to beat this
Yeah.
robot over here, I think that'll still be watched, and so maybe the
Yeah.
sport just changes.
True. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. But again, you're kind of like the team is what makes you interested in
Yes,
it. It's
the
not really
human
like
aspect. Yeah.
random robots. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it is fully an AI loop, you're completely right. I don't know if people would watch. Like, what would be the investment if Claude created this AI soccer team and it was fully automated and ran by Anthropic versus OpenAI AI, who had this team? Like, would I still be invested independent of human connection? Yeah, I don't know if I would be. I probably wouldn't be, because what's the point? Like, who
Yeah.
cares?
You just remind me of an old Nike ad. I think it was for the 2014 World Cup.
Mm.
And it's this like animated ad, and it talks about how like in this like whatever version of the future, someone just like replaced all the human soccer players with exact robot replicas of them.
Mm.
And it's such a well made ad. I think you can find it on YouTube. I can send you the link. I think it's like the Risk Everything campaign. I think that's what it was called. But again, it's kind of like the same thing, like kind of foreshadowing what we're talking about now. Like you feel like even if the robots would like pretend to be human, like there's still something that feels off. Like they could look the same, they could maybe do the same surface level
Mm-hmm.
tasks, but there's still something that feels different that we're not attached to.
Yeah. It's interesting the way I think about it in terms of like art and then like practical. So what I mean, like drawing and creating these things, like you do that, it's interpreting your mind and putting it out onto this piece of paper. It doesn't matter if AI can do it better or whatnot. It's like you enjoy that. But then I was thinking about this. My wife and I just started playing Go,
Mm,
and I will never. It doesn't. I could be the best Go player in the world. I'll still lose to AI now, and so it you have to look at it differently too. For that, it's like you can no longer look at it like, oh, I want to be the best in the world, because you'll still lose to this computer. You have to now look at it as an art or as an enjoyment process too. So it's really interesting to see like the leverage and the way we have to think about art and these new things, and really just look at it from a place of enjoyment rather than like, hey, I want to be the best at this or whatever in that
yeah.
aspect.
Yeah, it's a good time to reevaluate our priorities. But even like for like
Mm-hmm.
the Go thing, I think if you put again like you versus like a computer to like play Go and the computer wins, like I don't think most people will not be surprised because
Yeah.
it's not really a fair like match. And like I don't think you can like make a business around it, like, oh, like,
Yeah.
come watch humans versus
Yeah.
machines. Maybe you can, but like the machines will probably win because it's again the game is very defined. There's very specific things you can do and like can do. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where like a type of environment where like AI can thrive.
Mhm.
Um, but if
But
you have
it's
a league
different.
of all robots, like I
Yeah.
would watch that
Yeah.
100%. Like, because then it's like different. The example you gave about the Formula One team, like it's like the team behind the robot, like making this thing better
Mhm.
and better. Because then they're kind of all on equal, like standing capability wise.
Mhm.
But I would still watch like a human league of
Mhm.
some sort.
But people might say, well, Chase, what's the difference? Like if you versus like a computer or you versus the best Go player in the world, like you're still going to lose to both of them like every single time. But what I'd say to that is like, yes, I might lose to the Go Grandmaster, but if I'm psychotic enough and want to dedicate the entirety of my life, there is a chance that in 10, 20, 30
Yes.
years, I might win. However,
Yes.
there is no chance that I will beat the
Exactly.
AI ever.
See,
So
there's a story and the journey there that people want to follow, right?
exactly. Yeah.
It's like the Marty Supreme plot.
I just watched that movie. Exactly. Uh, well, it's interesting. So what would you say, like getting to the end of the conversation in the podcast here, what would be your message, your takeaway for somebody listening to this who's not as informed with AI? Like how should they feel coming out of this conversation? What would you want them to take away?
I would say I think like the thing I always recommend to people is like kind of like a three things, which I try to kind of tackle with my videos. First, like understand how AI works. Um, like these days, everyone tells you to have financial literacy because it affects your life. You need to make decisions about money and how it will impact you in the future. I think in the same sense, you need to have AI literacy because you need to make decisions about how it's being used, how you're using it, how it's being used at your job or at your work, and again steer like the direction and towards like the future that you want.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is learn what AI can do. So it's like I do this all the time. Like I'm subscribed to all the tools because I need to make videos about them and like inform people about them.
Mm-hmm.
But no one can tell you what can like automate your job or like what's at risk or what's worth doing. But you know your job more than anyone else. So take a tool, test out different things that you do, see what they can do, but at the same time, see what they can do. So that's the third part. Like learn what AI cannot do and make sure that it's like very clear in your head. And spoiler, it's like the soft skills that we talked about, like
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking, strategy, decision making. Even if it could produce that type of output, doesn't mean it's the right output for you.
Mm.
Um, Again, like you have all the context of your life and work that you need to make those decisions. So lean into that, like study, like the humanities of these things, like the topics,
Yeah.
and how to speak, how to maybe make decisions, like these things that are non-technical at all.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we had this conversation. You're maybe a little bit more optimistic than I am
Yeah,
about the state of the people and with the application of AI, and I
yeah.
like that. Like I like that, and I've probably consumed a little bit too much on the negative, on the dystopian side of the AI, and I need to swing back over to the utopia, and then hopefully I'll land somewhere in the middle because this is a good conversation to have. Prepping for this, I came across the year 2049 a couple times for you. What does that mean in relation to you?
Actually, so when I first started 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I started with a blog called Year 2049.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Substack, and the idea was to draw comics about the future based
Mm.
on the technologies of today. So let's say that something was announced today, I would just like at the end of the week, I would just send you a comic about like that thing like
Yeah.
projected into the future. Like sometimes it's exaggerated, but it's kind of like visualizing it and
Yeah.
like where it could go in a funny or like humorous way. But at the same time, with each comic, there was a deep dive into like the technology, kind of
Mm-hmm.
explaining it the way I do in my videos now, like very simply using analogies that are
Mm-hmm.
easy to remember and like easy to grasp. And I would say like I was doing that for the first maybe like 2 years, um, and then I paused it. It will be coming back soon. I'm just like reevaluating how I want to share those comics because again, I love to draw. One of my goals is to make a comic book
Yeah, that's
called Year
awesome.
2049 or multiple comic books because I have many ideas. And yeah, I'm actually taking a drawing course at the moment to improve my skills a bit because I want to
Yeah.
draw something a bit better than stick figures for that. I want to have proper characters
Mm,
and like make a real story that people
yeah.
can read and enjoy.
I need to subscribe to that for when it comes back because that sounds awesome. That sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really
I'll
like that's such a great delivery for it. It's like, hey, this is coming out now. This is where I think it'll be in 2049, and you
yeah,
can kind of have the fun, imaginative storytelling side of
exactly.
it
Yeah,
with the actual current information. So that's a really cool delivery mechanism for it.
exactly. Yeah, and when you think about it, 2049 is closer to today than the year 2000 is. So it's
Yeah.
it's not that far, but
Mm-hmm.
it's far enough where you can still imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's so fun.
yeah.
Well, I like to close every podcast off with two questions. The first being, who do you think I should speak to next and why? And then the
Oh,
second is based off of a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote: if we encounter a man of rare intellect, we should ask him what books he reads. So what's a book you recommend for me?
oh. Okay. Actually, the okay. I'll start with the first question. Person you should talk to is an author from one of my favorite books. I think his name is David Epstein. He wrote a book
Mm,
called The Range.
yeah. And his new book just came out.
Oh, I didn't know he had a new book. Okay, I need to
Yeah.
check that out. Um, it's one of the books I read a few years ago
Uh-huh.
about the kind of like the benefits of being a generalist. And
Mm,
like there's some confirmation bias here from mine because I view myself as a generalist
mm-hmm.
because I was always kind of all over the place with my interests. Even in college, like I studied AI and I studied human-centered design. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna combine these for my perspective on AI and technology for the future.
I just looked up. It's called Range. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. And his,
that's a
his
good.
newest one that just came out this year, just so you have it, is Inside the Box: How Constraints Make Us Better.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
friction.
Friction, exactly.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Books that I read, I've been, I'll say I read like a mix of things. The one I've been recommending a lot recently is a book by Clayton Christensen called Competing Against Luck. And I think it's a great book for anyone who like works in tech, but
Mm-hmm.
also like in general is is like maybe entrepreneurial
Mm-hmm.
because it talks about the jobs to be done framework. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but like his perspective is, when you're making a product or when you're starting a company, like people are not buying something, they're hiring your company or your product to do a specific job.
Mm,
So when you kind of take this like jobs to be done lens and kind of like build your product around that, you
mm-hmm.
create much better solutions and inventions that people will love. So I think it's very good to read now during this AI hype cycle because it kind of pulls you back and reminds you, okay, like what do I want to accomplish? Like what's the outcome that I want?
Mm-hmm.
The outcome is not using AI. Using AI is like a means towards something. But the outcome is, like you said, I want to make a great podcast. Like, how do I make a great podcast? Um, yeah.
That's yeah.
So
That sounds
that's one recommendation.
that's a great reframing and a great way to look at it. I'll have to check that out. Where can people find your work? Where can they follow you? Where can they get more exposure?
You can find me on most social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Future with Fawzi. That's Future with Fawzi. Because my name tends to be misspelled a lot.
I'll have it linked in the description so people can just click and head straight to your Instagram and your other socials. Well, this was an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you. I'm so uninformed on AI and stuff, so I like talking about it. I like getting a little bit
Yeah,
more informed.
I mean, I don't blame you. Like, and going back to like your point about like you feel like you have a negative perspective.
Hmm.
Being on social media for 4 years and making a lot of videos, I've noticed the negative content is usually the what goes viral,
Mm,
even when it's like not grounded in truth.
yes.
Like the one example a few months ago, I know we're like ending the conversation, but I just remembered this. The Molt book story. I don't know if you remember that, but like there was so many people were reporting like, oh, all these AI agents made their own social media platform and now they're like inventing religions and doing this, and like they're talking about their humans and all
Yeah.
that. And it was so incorrect. Like it was laughable when you just like spent this like a few minutes doing research.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out like a guy built the website, and the AI agents were like directed by their people to like write stuff.
Yeah.
Like they said, go invent a religion and make a post about it. But that spread so quickly, and that went super viral, and like so many people made videos about it. And I made one video about it explaining the truth. Like that, comparatively number wise, that way less people saw that than like the misinformation. Let's call
Mm-hmm.
it. So it's just got to keep an eye out.
Yeah. No, I had this
Yeah.
conversation with somebody recently about just the way social media algorithms are set up to produce fighting and
Yeah.
negativity and push that out there. So it's unfortunate. That's what's
Yeah.
going to get pushed, and then people see that and you're like, oh, this is just how it is. Like, this is what it is. This is how the world is framed, and it's really, when you step back and step outside of it, it's much more balanced or very rarely true. And so yeah,
Exactly. And it
you've
makes
got
you
to.
anxious, and it kind of like it's like the system that keeps like reinforcing itself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. So that's why I like to do the long form stuff, because it's like, if somebody's going to come listen to this whole thing, I want the whole story. I want to be
Yeah.
able to actually ask the questions and dissect what's actually people think. And that's why I really appreciate the long form, and why I do not like the short form. So I commend
Yeah.
those who are able to do it and do it well.
I need your advice on the long form. I think that's like the area I want to step into. But I will ask you one question. I know you're supposed to be asking questions, but I'm curious from
No,
your
please.
perspective, because you've had so many conversations. Is there like a very memorable thing that someone's told you in one of these conversations that you like always remember? Like something that you learned, or like
Yeah.
something that always on your mind?
I mean, with having all these conversations, there's I vary so much in my topic. Like you said, future with Fawzi, you did that so you could like have a bunch of different
Yeah.
stuff. I named it the Chase Merrill podcast, not because I'm a egotistical maniac, but because I was like, I don't know where I want this conversation to go.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, like, the podcast that came out this week was, I was talking about Vikings, and now we're talking about AI, and then I talk about, loneliness and mindset and athletes, and I talk about a wide variety of topics. So I'm always learning new things and having stuff on my mind. I mean, we were talking about loneliness with James Ellis, the conversation I had, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because some of the statistics that he was citing and quoting, he was like, being lonely, chronically lonely, is as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's like people who
I'm
are
not even shocked. I'm not even shocked
Yeah.
by that number, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, it's
people
bad.
who are chronically lonely have higher increases of like brain diseases. They have higher increases of cardiovascular events like heart attacks. It's like legitimately physically bad for your health to be lonely. And now I'm thinking about that all the time, because I spent a lot of my time sacrificing relationships and friendships in my youth for like the pursuit of what I was doing at the time. So like sport, like I'd be like, friends would be like, hey, come do this. I'm like, nah, I got to go to bed at this time, or I got to spend this time in the gym, or I got to train for this. And I was like, man, having relationships is so valuable. So that's been on
Yeah.
my mind a lot, because it was a very recent thing that I had, and I
Yeah.
had no idea how
Yeah.
detrimental those
100%.
those
Yeah.
relationships were to your physical health.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive, right? Like to do, and like I've noticed that with myself as like a chronic working all the time person. When I step back and slow down, like go see my friends or like my
Mhm.
family, I'm like, I do better work the next day. Like it's like sometimes doing less is more helpful.
Yeah.
I
And it's
also just
unfortunate.
got a new name for your podcast based on what you said.
Anyway.
Chasing curiosity.
Yeah. I played with that. I had a newsletter, or I have one that I'm playing around with, that was chasing. It was chasing something.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's it's been in the play. But now I think it's gotten to the point where I just have to. The podcast has grown enough where it's like I can't change the name now. We're almost 100
Yeah.
episodes deep. So, but that'll be the next newsletter coming up with it. Well, dude,
Awesome.
this was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure getting to talk with you, man.
Yeah, it was great talking to you too. Thanks for having me on, and I'll be listening to the next episodes, especially the loneliness one and the Viking one. I'm curious now.